Welcome to Crosstalk. Our forefathers made great sacrifices for the freedom we celebrate today. While we have made progress, some of the challenges that still rock our country includes poverty and inequality that still persist in our nation today. Joining me in this discussion tonight, it's none other than Fanya Mambo, Kinuthia, who is a lawyer. I'm also joined by the regional chairperson of NCCK, that's Nairobi region, Reverend Dr. Alphonse Kanga. We are going to be looking at some of the issues that we need as a people to look into critically as we move forward to the next year. The church has really spoken of late, and I think they have been vindicated based on the statements that we've seen coming out from the church. But before we get there, Reverend, maybe it's to start with you, Kinuthia. As we mark 61 as a nation, is there anything to smile about?
Okay, first and foremost, I'll say we are in an environment of peace. We may not be exactly where we want to be, but let us not take it for granted that Kenya is at peace. We are able to raise our children, we are able to take them to school, we may not have as much money as people need in their pockets. Some are not able to fix 3 meals a day. Some even eat 1 meal a day, and sometimes they don't have it. But at least there is peace. There's no gunfire. There's no bombs. You know, there are people who, right now in certain parts of this world, who, you know, they are worried about when the next bomb will land and where and how. So the fact that we are an island of peace, to some extent, is a good thing for us to celebrate. However, we have a lot of other things that we can say we have nothing to celebrate, because Mashujaa Day, Jamhuri Day was about us becoming a republic and us being able to govern ourselves and us being able to run our own affairs. When we decide we want to take our airport and give it to a foreigner of Indian descent, then we are retrogressing. We are losing the reason why we fought for independence. We fought for independence so that we are independent of everything that is foreign in terms of control of our resources, of our country, and anything within this nation. So I would say we have done well, but we need to struggle to continue to keeping our national resources to ourselves. That is a mark of internal self-rule.
Okay. Reverend, in terms of our political culture, we've seen a lot of our politics, 61 years down the line, still revolves around tribes and personalities.
We thank God for 61 years. As compared with the other countries, African countries, we have got a distance. We are at a good level. Number one, because of devolution, what we enjoy as freedom of speech, despite of our challenges as a family, the family of Kenyan people, we have our own freedom. Constitution 2010 is something we should celebrate. Not only that, the freedom we have ourselves, and the fact that we are in a level where we can see issues, where we can discuss, we are in a level where we can elect the government, we can challenge one another and still move on. To me, that's a step forward. Do we have challenges? Yes. We have challenges. Our challenges are mainly mindset. Let's say, for example, as you have said, the issue of politics. Right now, we are talking about accountability. We are calling the head of state. We are calling our political class to accountability. But out of that, some people will go around so that they can safeguard themselves, or they can feel good, or they can protect that, they can continue being unaccountable and walk free. They bring in the tribal card. I think as Kenyans, most Kenyans have gone beyond tribal card. When somebody comes up and say, oh, you know, we are saying the head of state because it's from a particular region, I don't think Kenya are in that direction. Kenyans are just saying, President, you are our president, so provided this is solved, we move on. But political class, as we celebrate, please back off and give us a break. It's not about tribal cards. It's about accountability, responsibility, and freedom with responsibility at 61.
Okay. Fanya Mambo, in terms of checking the government, it seems like we don't have a functioning opposition as we speak.
You see, now we have something called a bread-based government. It's based on bread and how they share the bread. And Mwananchi comes last, because when there is sharing, then Mwananchi is not involved. He's only involved when there is need to go and demonstrate and throw stones and be killed. But when now they start sharing, they think they put Mwananchi out of the place. And I have a problem with this amphibian. You know, an amphibian is this thing that lives on water and on land. And ODM is behaving like an amphibian because they're in government and they're out of government. And so it's a very funny creature that sometimes in the morning is saying the government is failing, and then in the afternoon they are remembering that they have ministers within the same government. We are in a very unfortunate place because then the people who would have spoken on behalf of Mwananchi are not there. But the whole idea is we have to keep these people in check. And now they've already started saying that finance bill was okay. So we cannot trust them, but we're telling Kenyans eternal vigilance is the price for good governance. Keep eternally vigilant. Keep telling these people you are going there, you've made a mistake, you are wrong. Keep doing that, and when we do that, they feel ashamed. And they maybe sometimes backtrack.
Rev, of course, the church have come out very strongly. If you look at what the church has been speaking, is there anything that is left that the church has not spoken? And is it being listened to? I think that's always the question that many people are asking. The church will always come out and issue these press statements, but is the government listening?
We have these two institutions that always work together for betterment of mankind, for wananchi. It's the church and the government. So long as the government exists, the church will always exist, because the church has the prophetic voice in everything that is happening with their brother, with the government. So is there something they have not spoken? There is something they have spoken, there is something that they are going to speak, and there's something they have not spoken, so long as the government behaves. When the government behaves, the church behaves, because the church and the state, they operate as two sisters to take care of their motherland. And so this one has a prophetic voice, and this one has a responsibility to do the things he has promised the wananchi to speak. And this one will tell her, this one we should always tell the government, this is going to happen, it is happening, it will happen, and it has happened.
Fanya, Mambo, one of the aspects of our constitution, 2010 constitution, that has remained silent is chapter 6, leadership and integrity.
Chapter 6 of our constitution has not been respected. At some point I said if there's one chapter in our constitution that has been ignored and looked down upon is chapter 6. You know, you look at the appointment of cabinet secretaries, for example, and look at some of those characters there and the records they hold, and some of them don't even have the requisite papers. It's a very horrible place to be. But I keep saying, what this country lacks is morals. Completely. If you look at the concluded American elections, people even voted via post. Yani unatumia ballot, una mark, people don't understand. Then you send via post. If you send Kenyans a ballot here, I think an MCA would get 5 million votes, because they would photocopy, they would reprint, they would create those ballots in River Road. You'd go to a ward that has 6,000 people, and you know, and you get a person has got 1 million votes. Here, even in church, we have to put a poster in church saying, take care of your personal belongings. And we're in church and people are worshiping. So this is the kind of country we are in, that for anything good to happen, we need laws. You even legislate on the laws that we have legislated upon, so that for you to do something, you're doing it because the law is covering you. I pray that Kenya gets to the point where we shall be like the Japanese, that if you left your wallet on a counter somewhere, you would find it. In fact, the only worry would be they would ask, just tell us something to prove that it actually is yours, and you find everything intact. The problem we have is people don't have morals, and they keep legislating against their immoral behavior. And you cannot legislate on immorality. You have to get to a place where our people are transformed from the inside, so that I see public resources, but I'm like, no.
Yeah.
I think it's the issue of the software. There's a difference between the software and the hardware. What he's saying, what my friend is saying is true. Where did it start? Where the problem began? From the software, before you go to the hardware. Sometimes we are talking about the hardware, but how is the software? The software started from home. How are you brought up? What are some of the strong points? What are some of the strongholds that you hold from the family? From the family now it comes up. For example, right now, we are talking of constructing our country. We are celebrating the 61 years. How are we celebrating our 61 years with the system of education in this country? I've just said before that system of education must be having a challenge. Why? I don't know. How old is your child?
Oh, I'm blessed. My son is 16, my daughter is 11.
No, your daughter is 11. Yes, let's talk about 11.
Yeah.
11 goes to the school. Yeah. She comes with a carton prepared, gives to mama to cut it for her. Then she takes it to school. And then when she takes it to school, that carton is marked. And then she's given a grade we call above average. Mm-hmm. Has that thing sharpened the child or it has sharpened the mother? Who does assignment for?
It has disturbed the mother.
It has disturbed the mother.
And so
who has to run and look for carton?
So is this education going to be graded to the child or the mother?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
There's a challenge. So what do? We need to think critically about the system of education. We need to ask ourselves, where is grade 9 going right now? And if this child finishes and is told above average, can he sit in a class of Harvard University, New York University, other international universities, and fit with the rest of the people? That's the question we should ask ourselves from the hardware. But let's not go round. Mm-hmm. You are saying, what's our problem? Our problem is as simple as this. Are we genuine from inside? Okay. When our own parliamentarians become cheerleaders of the executive, where are we? When our own parliamentarians say what they have been taught to say, where are we?
And we are going to be speaking to the independence of our institutions immediately after the break. We take a short break. When we come back, we'll pick from that question that you've, of course, also brought into this conversation. This is Crosstalk. We are celebrating 61 years as a nation, 61 years of independence. As a Kenyan, if you think about Kenya at 61, what are you proud about? You can share some of your feedback on our SMS line 20316 or WhatsApp line 0786 316 316, and we'll be right back after this short break.
We are living in a lost and broken world, constantly bombarded by messages of hate and atrocities. But with God, we can overcome. Find hope and restoration on the go through life-changing shows on the Family Media app.
And then you will lose yourself and gain the world. And Jesus said, what good is it?
Get to stream Family TV and Family Radio 316 straight from your phone. Catch up on a show you missed or create video streaming playlists by saving and watching videos from our huge variety of shows at your own convenience. Download the Family Media app, available for all Android and iOS users on the Google Play Store and Apple Store respectively. Family Media, keeping Jesus on the airwaves.
Welcome back to Crosstalk, Kenya at 61. As you think about it, what makes you proud as a Kenyan? Share some of your feedback and we'll be in a position to look into them. Joining me in this conversation is Reverend Alphonse Kanga, who is the regional chairperson of NCCK. I'm also joined by lawyer Fanya Mambo, Kinuthia, who is part of this conversation. And before the break, we were just talking about the independence of institutions. How independent are these institutions?
I wanted at some point to say that they are not independent. Then I discovered I'll be fought about it. So I say they are independent of everything, including thought. That they've chosen to be independent. Yes. They are so independent of even thinking. Because when a president says, go and pass finance bill, and shots are being fired and people are being beaten outside, and you pass finance bill, and then he comes the following day and says, let's stop finance bill. Then you clap for him. Comes to parliament, says, Adan is good, let us pass it and let's fight for it. You clap for him. Comes, gives a State of the Nation address and says, Adan is not good. You clap for him. It tells you there's nobody, out of those ones who are clapping, none of them is using their brain the correct way. So we pray that we get an IEBC. We've already collected signatures in several constituencies. And we are just hoping if we had an IEBC tomorrow, we would have shown the president, for example, of how we are going to throw out some of his people.
Because they are saying the issue of the IEBC is not political, but more a legal thing.
I'll tell you this for free. There's nothing legal about IEBC. It's all politics. And when you want to know that is the true position, is we are now fighting about the selection panel, not IEBC. We are fighting about who will go and choose the commissioner. to me, it doesn't matter whether it's Raila choosing or Ruto or Kindiki or whoever. Go choose 9 because the law says we need 9. Yeah. And once you have the 9, come back to us. We will give you an election. You will count those votes. And now it is more painful when you have people who are loyal to you telling you, hey, umeshindwa. Yes.
Because the issue of the IBC, as you put a rider to this, Reverend, is we also have people who are not having representatives in either National Assembly or County Assembly. So where does this leave us as a nation?
We are saying this. If you followed our statement, we were so categorical as NCCK that we gave 2 weeks so that all of us should sit together as Kenyans and make a decision on IEBC. Because IEBC is an animal in the house. If we are not going to deal with this issue of IEBC, we are preparing the country for the worst. We are preparing the country for war. Imagine we prepare IEBC in 2026. We have a very short time to prepare for election. That is a reason for trouble. It's as if we are preparing the country for 207. Not only that, the question is, I wanted to begin from where I started. Is IEBC a legal issue or a political issue? Yeah. I sit down and wonder, you mean our lawyers like him, our legal system can be manipulated and dominated not to make decisions so that they can override the politicians? You mean they can all just be there? For example, we have the so-called court cases. These court cases, if IBC is a priority, the Chief Justice can stand today and appoint people and move on and make decisions. And then we have IBC in place. Not because IBC is going to bring heaven down, no, but IBC will bring Kenyans back into the justice system. Kenyans will believe that this is happening. Despite the challenges, the structure will be in place to know that we can elect a leader and we trust that he has been elected. Okay. But if we don't do that, that's why we are saying as NCCK, please Kenyans, arise and shape your own destiny. Do not ignore. Do not sit there and wait for the political class to manipulate and dominate you. Let's all arise and say no. If it's the Chief Justice, let's tell Kwame, please, Kwame, arise and help us get IBC quickest possible.
You've talked about 2 weeks. So what happens if the 2 weeks elapse and there is no...
Yes, we said we are giving out 2 weeks. We'll still call our house together and make a decision. What do we do?
Okay.
The question is, what are we going to do after 2 weeks? We'll sit together as a church in this country, the prophetic voice, and decide the next course of action.
Okay. Fanya, Mambo, do you think the church will sustain the momentum that was started by the Conference of Catholic Bishops?
I do not want to speak on behalf of the church. But I want to tell you that there are congregants who are going to their churches, and the congregants are speaking, and the churches are listening to their own congregants. You see, no church wants to lose its membership. No church wants to lose its credibility from within its own ranks. Apart from one I had saying, watarudisha shukrani peke yake hawezi rudisha pesa. Many of these other churches are responsible enough to want to keep their congregations and to actually want to stand for the truth and to be seen to practice what they preach. So my hope and prayer is that, you see, this is not a fight against William Ruto. That's what people forget. No. It's a fight against bad governance. It's the bad manners that the church and every other person in Kenya has a problem with. The other day, the head of state was very angry with us. Yes. And he called us Mapepo, and he said, Tukona Pepo. Yes. And I've always responded to him and told him, Your Excellency, when you became president, you started blaming lack of resources. You said empty coffers. Yeah. So for the first 3-4 months, we had nothing else other than we found empty coffers. So you were allowed to do anything, including buying new vehicles and saying you found empty coffers. After that they realized that was not sustainable. They started blaming Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. Hey, Uhuru has done, Uhuru is sponsoring, Uhuru is doing. What did he do? He left the country. So they discovered it's hard to blame Uhuru for the things that Kenya Kwanza has not done. And you cannot speak about empty coffers after you've read your first budget. So now those two things could not be blamed. Then we had them now blaming Ford Foundation. Then Isaac Mwaura started blaming the Russia government. They did all sorts of things. Now, when there was nobody else to blame, they look left, right, center, there's no human. So they started blaming some intangible, invisible thing that we cannot even touch or smell called mapepo. And now they've gotten to a point when you hear people have blamed every living creature, including the wildlife, and then they've gotten to a place that the only thing they can blame is something that you cannot see or touch or smell called mapepo. Then you know they've lost it. And now, then he comes and tells us about the airport. And my young people are telling him something. If the qualification for you to speak about government projects. If the qualification is that you must have been to the airport for you to talk about the airport. Young people nowadays, wanashikana 3-4 people, you pay a taxi, you go to the airport. You take photos, you say we are here, and then now you can start commenting about the airport because you have been to the airport. And most finally, we may not have been to the airport. We may never even have taken an aircraft to any place. And I'm speaking for the bulk of very many Kenyans. But our taxes go there. Our hard-earned money goes to that airport. And so we are speaking of our money that has gone there. If you don't want us to speak about the airport, we won't, but don't take our taxes there then. You come and selectively choose the taxes of those people who've gone to the airport, you identify it, you mark it with a red pen, you put that into the airport. Then you leave the taxes of all those people who've never been to the airport. That we shall be okay with that.
Okay. Yes.
One good thing I like, as I said, we are celebrating 61 years. We are celebrating because we have a lot of freedom to say what we want and how we say. And even the head of state, he also has a right to say what he says. But the interpretation depends on me and you that's interpreting. As far as I'm concerned, I cannot speak on behalf of the president what he meant by Pepo, because he went to different school of theology where he learned about demonology, and I went to different schools where I learned about the demons. So I don't know how the Pepo looks like. I don't know how demons look like, but I know from a theological perspective how demons looks like.
Or how they manifest.
And how they manifest. Yes. I'm not conversant. You cannot speak what the president might have meant good, but I don't know about it. Whether one has been to the airport, we might have interpreted out of context, content, and circumstances, but it's in the mind of the speaker. But where we are here, we are saying, Kenyans, please, don't drive your mind so much on the issues that are not holding water. The issue right now, we are saying, arise and shape your destiny as far as some of these things concern. Let's go to the things on the table right now, where we are saying, somebody says, he can only return shukrani. Now, what are we saying as a church? We are now celebrating 61 years, which means we have gone to a level of maturity that even the Christianity, even the spirituality in our church has gone to a level of maturity. That's why we are saying, tafadhali, it might have happened before. But for now, if your salary is 700,000, and every Sunday you give 5 million, 2 million, 1 million, in a month you give 20 million, and you are salary 700,000, we are saying, please, church, let's sit, consider our ways. Are we looking at this brother, if he's your brother and that's my brother, where have you gotten all this other money? Is it possible that we might be taking our own tax money in another way?
This brings us to the issue of corruption. But even as we speak to that, Fanya Mambo, there is also the issue of government economic advisors are saying that the indicators for economic growth is showing that as a nation, we are doing well economically. Maybe speak to that as well.
When Ruto became president, after a short time, God was faithful. He gave us rains, a lot of rains in 2023 and then 2024. The first thing that usually sprouts when it rains is grass. So there was a lot of grass in this country. I don't know whether Kenya Kwanza is going to say that it's because of their fertilizer that we had grass, because their fertilizer was not applied to the pastures. So we had a lot of grass. They should never take credit for that. The most natural thing that a cow does when it takes a lot of grass, it gives you a lot of milk. It's so natural. So within the first 2 weeks of rain, there was a milk glut. there was more milk being milked than people could consume. And actually there was milk being poured by farmers. Something very painful. I could see news items of people saying, hata umbo huko haitaki maziwa. As in, it was that bad. So milk moved down from 65 shillings to about 54 shillings for the sachet. Kenya Kwanza started taking credit for that. Then you look at them and you keep quiet. The next most natural thing that grows faster after grass was sukuma wiki na cabbage. I mean, anybody seeing the rain will put sukuma wiki here, and in 2 weeks by then you're plucking sukuma wiki. So what essentially happened is the people were relying on green grams and maharagwe and such. That is usually the next line of kitoweo when you can't get sukuma wiki. There was so much sukuma wiki so fast, the price of sukuma wiki had to go down because the supplier was higher than the demand. The price of tomatoes, kwamba unafikiria mvua inachagua kitunguu na nyanya inasema sitanyeshea nyanya na kitunguu. The price of tomatoes that was like 20 shillings a tomato went down mpaka unapewa za 100 unashtuka. And so did onions and everything else. Kenya Kwanza wants to take credit for that. Yet the person suffering is the farmer. So did inflation go down? Yes. But ironically, people are suffering now when the food is more than they were before. Because a farmer who used to sell 20 shillings or 30 shillings per cabbage or 40 shillings per cabbage is selling it for 10, 15 times cheaper. So you look like there's a nation where inflation has gone down, but nothing has gone down. God has just, aliangalia akasema, first you have a horrible administration. If I allow you not to have rain, you will just die. So God gave us so much, and we thank him every day because he knew we cannot be beaten by Kenya Kwanza, and then we are beaten by the lack of rain and to grow our crops. Yeah.
We said this. Everybody has a reason why he speaks from where he's speaking, from where he's coming from. But we told Kenyans and CCK the other day, arise and decide your destiny.
What are some of the practical steps to do that?
Yes, and what I wanted to say is that somebody said, oh no, you called the president a liar, far from the truth. What we told Kenyans, you know what? We are not looking at an individual. We are not pointing a finger to an individual. We are telling Kenyans, please Kenyans, you are now mature enough, you are 61 years old, you must be able to know the difference between the truth and the lie. For example, when somebody tells you we are doing well and the economy is diving, business are closing, who is lying to who?
Maybe as we wind up, your last words, in terms of priorities as we move forward, what will be your advice to the government?
It's very simple. The number of Kenyans who have stolen money from this country, and they are hiding it in bedrooms and containers and all sorts of places. There is enough money to run this country. I think the first thing I would have done as president, before I go with a begging bowl to anybody, is to make a call and say, if there is you out there, start telling them, we can do public-private partnerships with you. Where do you come from? Where is your village? The guy probably comes from a village that has no road. You tell them, we will allow you. These are the standards. Put this road up. Get a contractor. And then you can start tolling that road for a period of 10 or so years, then give it back to the government. We can literally tarmac this country by that. The amount of money that Kenyans have stashed in accounts abroad is enough to run this country. We just need a president who is able to speak to people and tell them, look here, some of you may have stolen even before I became head of state, but let us build our country. Sit with them. Let's even come with a legislation to protect them. Let us start thinking in terms of being productive people, in terms of being productive citizens, and in terms of coming up with industries.
Okay. Rev, your last statement, and of course, still remaining as a church speaking truth to power.
No, we are saying this as a church. Do not allow oppression laws to come and oppress us. The issue of GMOs, the issue of injecting animals. Let's ask ourselves, who is behind injecting animals? Do we need to inject animals, or we need to have a discussion on the table that will bring food on the table and develop our farms? What's first? Let's go with the priorities. Kenyans, please, let's not hate one another. Don't become a victim of individuals' manipulation for domination in the name of politics. Nobody shall tell you the issues of tribe. Tribe is something political class uses to cover themselves out of their ignorance. So may God help Kenyans. We are strong and we are moving together.
Thank you.
Amen.
Thank you, Fanya Mambo, for your time. in this conversation. Thank you, Reverend, for your time as well. And thank you for watching Crosstalk tonight. We thank you for being with us and listening to the conversation that has happened around this table. Of course, quite a lot of things that we still need to think around and discuss as a people and as a society, things that affects our lives. So even as we move to our 61, as you reflect on the journey that we've come as a people, as a nation, find one thing that you celebrate about Kenya and find one challenge that you wish will be sorted out as we move forward by this government. And you can do that also by sharing some of your comments to our SMS line 20316. Our WhatsApp line is 0786 316 316, and we'll sample some of them as we celebrate Kenya at 61. Thank you. Until next week.